Alright, welcome to video number 2 here, and on this video basically I'm going to give you a quick overview on how to prep Bifrost in order to send to the Flow graph engine into the cloud. The first thing that you have to have is basically the plugin. If you don't see this menu here, make sure to go to Windows, Settings and Preference, and Plugin Manager, and if you type Flow here, you need to have this guy load here. The Flow Wedging.py. You can see that also there is another one here, Flow Retopo, so you can also use the retopologized tools in Maya in order to send to the cloud. Right now I have it off, but this is the most important one. After that, then just the main node that you need to send graph to the cloud is the wedging cache node, because this is gonna basically do everything for you. So you have to have this one. And obviously, since you're creating wedges, another important one is going to be the wedging parameter, where you can just set up the variations of your different attributes here, properties. So in this case, I'm going to connect all of them, the expansion scale and the heating as well. And I already play with these settings, and I'm just going to change basically some of these values, because some of the values were like too much for my liking. So I'm going to do flight propagation, and I'm just going to keep it to 10 here. Also, what I'm going to do is you don't have to do this to send, but I want to lower the voxel size of my of my aerosolver here. So I'm going to create a node here, and then I'm going to connect this to the rest of the sources as well, so we can control it through just one node. So I'll do this very quickly here, connect that. Now it's 0.3, which is really not that high res, but I want to go to 0.4. So it's even lower res. Just for speed's sake, since this is a demo. For housekeeping, I already mentioned this before, but I'm just going to repeat this one more time. Just remember to delete everything that you don't need. For example, for aero or like smoke, fire, basically the most common properties, attributes are density, temperature, and velocity. That way also the file catcher is going to be smaller, and then you can read these catches a lot faster as well. Another thing, by the way, that the graph engine allows you to do is create some play blast on the cloud, so you can see actually your simulation render in the cloud, just to check out very quickly how it's looking like. And for that, you need to make sure to add the material before the wet catch. Also, right now, one of the limitations for that is that it needs to be a Bifrost object. For example, for volumes, VDB won't work. You cannot assign a material to a VDB directly. So that is one of the limitations as of now. Remember, this is a technology preview, so this might change in the future. Another thing just to keep in mind is that the wedging catch needs to connect to an output. You cannot connect it to a terminal, for example, to create this, to send it to the cloud. As you can see, this is a fan-in object, which means that you can connect multiple simulations or geometry, so you can connect a bunch of stuff here as well. But you have to have one wet catch per graph. And then basically is checking this file path, where this is going to go. So for that, we have a node called wedge file name. And this actually, since these are just tokens basically, you can actually redirect this where you want. But by default, this is where it's going to go. So if we put the file wedge name, you can actually see the path. And if we press W here, this is going to compute, and then it's going to tell you exactly where it's going to go. So if I show you my Maya structure here, basically it's going to go to Maya scenes, and it's going to create a folder right here that is going to call cache, and then the rest. However, I usually don't like to have my caches in this directory right here. Actually, I like for Bifrost to use my already created folder called cache. So for that, I need to go a directory app. And the way that you do that basically is changing this token right here. Just in case if you didn't know, we have a scene info node, which basically is doing exactly this. So if we look at this path right here now, the scene directory is going to be Maya scenes. Then the project directory is going to be Maya. So that's exactly what I need. And then the scene, obviously, just the name of the scene, just in case. So I usually use the scene node a lot because when I read Alembics or VDVs or I use the file cache node, I can keep everything procedural that way. Obviously, this is going to work if you have your project set up, so it's always a good idea to set up your project. So in this case, I want the project directory. So what I can do here in the job port is just change this to project. And now if you look at the wedge file name here, it's basically it's going to go into Maya and it's going to use my cache folder. If it wasn't there, my Maya cache folder, it will create this folder, by the way. So if I show you now, it's going to use this again, and then it's going to create the rest of the folder right here. Basically, it's going to write all the caches and renders and previews and all that in this folder. All right, great. So we have that set up. And the last step here, let me just delete this. I don't need it anymore. And the last step that you need to set up is basically telling Bifrost how many wedges you want. At the moment, the limit is 4. Remember, because it's just this also might change in the future, but you can do a maximum of 4 different wedges. For this case, I'm gonna just do 2 for speed's sake, and we will send these 2. So basically, what it's gonna do is gonna just create these 2 values, the start and end values. So with that said, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna say, oh well, before I send. Let's actually also prep the engine to create the little play blast preview animation or preview render in the cloud. So for that, what you need to do is create a group transform and call it preview. And this is case sensitive, so make sure it's in lowercase, just as I have it here. And now we can create any extra geometry, lights, any extra cameras that you want to add into this. So basically for this, I'm just going to create a quick physical sky and then also a camera here. So it doesn't really matter, but we just need one camera. Bifrost is going to do, or actually the engine is going to create like a little window 1 by 1. It's going to create the render like this. So let me create a camera right here. I'm going to hotbox new camera and I'm going to call this shot cam. It doesn't really matter how you call it. It's just the way that I call my cameras. I'm going to select these 2, middle click, and then drag and drop into the preview. So now the engine is going to recognize that this 2 is also, they need to add that into when we send it. Cool. Great. I'm going to go back to perspective now. We have the camera, we have the lights, and now we're ready. I'm going to save this. And I'm going to go into Flow Graph Engine and go into create new job. So you can see that we have our monitor here and then also this window. When you have multiple jobs, you're going to see, as you can see, I've been testing this. So if we have the graph shape, so you can pick whichever shape you want, whichever Bifrost graph you want to send. So right now we just have 1, so we see 1. Then the wedging, basically just if you want to compute the one selected or all of them. So I want to say compute all the 2 wedgings. The worker is going to be basically the computer that is going to be used in the cloud. And the timeout and per-execution timeout are just safeguards, basically that just, if let's say that for whatever reason the scene is taking more than 12 hours or like the frame, it's going to just time out. You can change these. You have different options as well here. The job name, so we can call it whatever we want. Time slider, basically the start frame and end frame, so we can do time slider, animation range, or custom. I'm gonna just do 50 frame again for speed's sake, and then the render preview because we have this folder right here, and it's gonna tell you it's gonna create the preview with Arnold rendering, the worker again, the computer. And then basically also a timeout for the render. If it's taken more than 15 minutes, it's gonna basically cancel. And if you want to download your caches and also the render preview. So I'm gonna leave it like this. I'm gonna download, render, and all that. And by the way, if you don't have this, let me just show you very quickly here. So if I delete this and I go again, Flow, go create a new job, you can see that this thing doesn't show anymore the render preview, so you have to have that folder. All right, cancel. I'm gonna do again, create new job, and then we have it again here, render preview and all that. So this came back to the default. So let me change this very quickly. I'm gonna do custom 50 frames, large, and yeah, we're ready to go. So I'm gonna say okay, and let me just change the name here. Let's say Cool Explosion, and I'll be back with the results. On the job monitor, you will see that this is scheduled. So if you click now here, it's going to tell you when it's sent, a schedule, and then also the two agents. And then when it's scheduled now, you're seeing a little more information as well of what's going on. Wedge, it just finished simming, and it's telling you actually the time here, and also the thumbnail preview is creating 33 frames of 50. So now actually we can start previewing a little bit, and you can start seeing kind of like how this is looking mid-sim. Obviously it's missing some frame, but you can have an idea. And if we check the wedge one as well here, so also the sim finish. And actually we have also a little bit of the thumbnails, so we can start previewing, and you can see that very different, both of them. All right, so now it's done. And basically what we can do is play the whole movie here, for example, and you can see how this is looking. And I tell you actually, as I said, the time that executed for the sim, and then also to create the thumbnail preview here. You have job logs here just to see if you have, this is for basically for more TDs, you know, if you have an error, you can actually find out what's going on here. You also have for the render preview, and it give you also detailed information what it does for the render preview here. You have the job details, like how long it took, when it was created, the peak of CPU. Again, all this information is more for TDs. And then we can also check the watch catch one. And if I let it load, because I need to load a little bit in the cloud, you can see now what this looks like. And then, you know, if you wanna, you can obviously download everything from here, but we already downloaded, and then you can also delete the job. So, okay, so now we can check actually, we can close this window here, and we can change, we can check the preview here. So let me just change this to 50. And if I just start dragging the timeline, you can see what is going on. You can see that these are kind of low res, but still give you an idea of what's going on. And then we can also check the second one. It takes a little bit, but there you go. So now this is actually the other wedging. So let's say that you're happy with this one, or your director tell your supervisor tell you, okay, let's keep this one. What we can do in 212, we have this option here, apply wedge. What this does on the top menu here is telling you, okay, so I want to keep actually this index, the second one, 0 and 1. 0 is the 1, 1 is 2. I know it's a little bit confusing, but that is the way it is. And then it's telling you here which node, in which node this index and parameters are going to be applied. So right now it's telling you that it's going to be in the wet catch and read catch on the different wedge parameters. So if, for example, I wouldn't do it here because this is going to make it edible, and it's going to basically kind of bake the information inside, and which usually you don't like, you don't want to do that. But you can do it if you want. On this, I'm good for it because I actually want to keep these values log. In that case, I'm going to do it in these guys. So I'm going to say actually skip reference compounds, and that actually is going to take the cache out. You can also unselect it from here as well. Basically the index and the parameters, I want to apply this, the first, like the second wedging. And I'm going to say apply. And you can see that this is going to add two different parameters here, two other extra parameters, which is just saying that basically just keep the wedging index 1 and of 2. So what this allows you to do now basically is to keep wedging different attributes now, but these are going to stay locked. They are not going to change. So you can keep this here, and then you can keep going and wedging more different attributes, but they're gonna stay locked. With that said, basically that's what it's all about, and what I wanted to cover in this second tutorial. Just kind of like just run you through this whole process, and as you can see, it's not very that complicated. It's just a few things to keep in mind, just to go through very quickly. They may know that you need to send something to the cloud, just this way in cache, and then obviously since you're doing wedging, as I said before, this way your parameters, and then you can wedge anything, and you can start testing and sending graphs using the Flow Wedging technology preview. Hopefully this was useful, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.